Loving service unto the personality of Godhead, whose praise with transcendental songs is established in an irrevocable fact. So, now we have a reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. It's Canto 2, Chapter 6, Purusha Shukta, confirmed, text 23. Yadasya Navyan Nalinad Yadasya Navyan Nalinad
Yadasya Navyan Nalinad
Aham Asam Mahatmanaha Aham Asam Mahatmanaha Navidam Yagya Sambaran Navidam Yagya Sambaran Purushavayavan Rite Purushavayavan Rite Yadasya Navyan Nalinad Aham Asa Mahatmanaha Navidam Yagya Sambadran Purushavayavan Rite Yadasya Navyan Nalinad Aham Asa Mahatmanaha Navidam Yagya Sambadran Purushavayavan Rite I don't know if it was up here too. Ready to chant?
Yadasya Navyan Nalinad Aham Asam Mahatmanaha Navidam Yagya Sambadran Purushavayavan Rite
Yadasya Navyan Nalinad Aham Asam Mahatmanaha
Navidam Yagya Sambaran Purushavayavan Rite
Yadasya Nalinad
Aham Asam Mahatmanaha Navidam Yagya Sambaran Purushavayavan Rite Yadasya Navyan Nalinad Aham Asam Mahatmanaha Navidam Yagya Sambadran Purushavayavan Rite. Yada at the time of Asya his Navyat
from the abdomen
Nalinat
from the lotus flower
Aham myself
Asam
took my birth Mahatmanaha
of the great person
Na'avidam did not know Yagya sacrifice so ingredients Purusha of the Lord Abhayavan
limbs.
Personal bodily limbs.
Rite,
Rete.
except.
Except.
Like all except one, like except, not except. I mean, that just explains. But you might not know which accept or except, so I just said. Okay.
Yes.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Srila Prabhupada.
When I was born from the abdominal lotus flower of the Lord, Mahavishnu, the great person, I had no ingredients for sacrificial performances except the bodily limbs of the great personality of Godhead. Please repeat. When I was born from the abdominal lotus flower.
When I was born from the abdominal lotus flower
of the Lord, Mahavishnu.
Of the Lord Mahavishnu.
The great person.
The great person.
I had no ingredients for sacrificial performances.
I had no ingredients for sacrificial performances.
Except the bodily limbs.
Except the bodily limbs.
Of the great personality of Godhead.
Of the great personality of God. Of the great personality of God.
Purport. Lord Brahma, the creator of the cosmic manifestation, is known as Swayambhu, or one who is born without father and mother. The general process is that a living creature is born out of the sex combination of the male father and the female mother. But Brahma, the firstborn living being, is born out of the abdominal lotus flower of the Mahavishnu plenary expansion of Lord Krishna. By the way, that's an example of Mahavishnu being used in a general way because it's not specifically Karanodakashaya Vishnu. This is Garbhodakashaya Vishnu. They still say Mahavishnu. The abdominal lotus flower is part of the Lord's bodily limbs, and Brahma is born out of the lotus flower. Therefore, Lord Brahma is also a part of the Lord's body. Brahma, after his appearance in the gigantic hollow of the universe, saw darkness and nothing else. He felt perplexity, and from his heart he was inspired by the Lord to undergo austerity, thereby acquiring the ingredients for sacrificial performances. But there was nothing besides the two of them, namely the personality of Mahavishnu and Brahma himself, born of the bodily part of the Lord. For sacrificial performances, many ingredients were in need, especially animals. The animal sacrifice is never meant for killing the animal, but for achieving the successful result of the sacrifice. The animal offered in the sacrificial fire is, so to speak, destroyed, but the next moment it is given a new life by dint of the Vedic hymns chanted by the expert priest. When such an expert priest is not available, the animal sacrifice in the fire of the sacrificial altar is forbidden. Thus Brahma created even the sacrificial ingredients out of the bodily limbs of the Garbhodakashaya Vishnu, which means that the cosmic order was created by Brahma himself. Also, nothing is created out of nothing, but everything is created from the person of the Lord. The Lord says in the Bhagavad Gita 10:8, Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pravartate. Everything is made from my bodily limbs, and I am therefore the original source of all creations. The impersonalists argue that there's no use in worshiping the Lord. That's a whole different topic. I'm going to just talk about this paragraph and then that one, because they're quite distinct. And there's good stuff in both of them. First of all, comparing 10:8, this translation, and the one in the Bhagavad Gita, which is this translation. In this one, he says, everything is made from my bodily limbs, and I'm therefore the original source of all creations. And 10:8, the translation is, I'm the source of all material, spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. So, the first sentence is different. I'm the source of all material worlds. Everything emanates from me, whereas everything is made from my bodily limbs, and therefore I'm the original source of all creations. And they're the same meaning, exactly. But by comparing the two, you get a stronger idea that Krishna being the source is not the idea of God that we grew up with in the West, that he creates out of nothing. He creates out of himself. And so it becomes more clear here. Everything is made from my bodily limbs. Prabhupada is stressing this. That is made from, Krishna makes everything from his own self. even though it's his lower energy, the Virat Rupa is his lower energy, still it's himself, it's his own energy. So Lord Brahma here, he has nothing to offer a sacrifice with. What do you do as a sacrifice is to create a relationship between yourself and God. There was only him and God, basically. God meaning Garbhodakashai Vishnu. That's all there was. And so Brahma had to create everything, but he didn't create out of nothing. Of course, he just shaped it out of the lotus flower, which is all the material energy and the blueprints and the souls and everything is there, and he shaped it all according to plans. So then he could offer sacrifices. But this shows how in order to offer sacrifices, how much is needed, even to the point of animals. It's no simple thing. So he brings that up because he's showing how Lord Brahma created all the ingredients out of the bodily limbs of the Lord. And all the ingredients are there, so Brahma created all these specific bodies. So even when you say the animals, it means you really did create all these things in order to offer the sacrifice, because the animals are pretty advanced. It's not just like creating some ghee and offering it. It's the whole thing. You had to create the whole system. So, and aside about the animals, of course, we're not allowed to do animal sacrifices now. And the original animal sacrifice was to give the animal a new life immediately. So we can't imagine that exactly, because it's been some 5,000 years, 5,000 years into Kali Yuga, and the Brahmanas haven't been able to do this. So Buddha came to stop the animal sacrifices because they were just doing it in order to eat meat. And if we grew up in the Western tradition, in the Old Testament there's the animal sacrifices, and they have descriptions about who gets what parts of the meat. So it had already fallen by the time the traditions that we in the West grew up with, and I know probably in India too, Buddha already had to come and end these animal sacrifices because they were just doing it as a meat market to get meat. So that's over, but so it's hard to understand, hard to really imagine that this is a good thing that they had animal sacrifices, but they would give the animal a new life immediately. And apparently they were able to give the animal a new life as a human sometimes, because that's how they got Draupadi and Drishtadyumna. And that's how some certain demons were created to go and take vengeance on somebody in the Bhagavatam, like Vritrasura. He was Chitraketu became, was Vritrasura? Is that the right name?
Yes.
Vritrasura. Okay, I didn't want to switch stories or something. So Chitraketu received some blessings in devotional service, and he was going around celebrating that he was chanting the glories of the Lord with the pretty ladies, but then he saw Shiva and Parvati together among the sages, and he thought that was really funny. And but he was, he was not doing exactly the same thing probably, but he was traveling around with ladies too. And so Parvati cursed him, and he had to be born a demon. So this demon was created in the sacrificial fire. So where they got this soul. Now I don't know exactly how a soul all of a sudden from an animal body all of a sudden gets elevated to somebody like Draupadi or Drishtadyumna. I don't understand how that works, but if they came out of the sacrificial fire, they put the animal into it, as far as I can understand, because otherwise how did they create this beautiful intelligent being out of the sacrificial fire? So in those days, the animal sacrifice meant something way different from what we might think nowadays. And the poor animals are getting sacrificed or something. We think it's a way different understanding. So that's one of the points of this paragraph, and the ingredients of sacrifice were made from the limbs of the body. Now in chapter 9. 16, Krishna says the same thing here, but it is after saying, others who engage, that's where we're there. Okay, I'll go back to here. Always chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me, these great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. Then he goes to talk about, and we're going to mention this again, and so I'm reading that, others other than the devotees, who engage in sacrifice by the cultivation of knowledge. Who engage in sacrifice, so the word sacrifice has a broader meaning too, that anything you give up for the Lord. So engage in sacrifice by the cultivation of knowledge. Worship the Supreme Lord as a one without a second. This is to be like Jnani is. Worship the Supreme Lord as one without a second. The purport says that's a Mayavadi. As diverse in many, the purport says that's like demigod worship. And in the universal form, that's nature of worship. So, text 16. But it is I who am the ritual, the sacrifice, the offering to the ancestors, the healing herb, the transcendental chant. I am the butter and the fire and the offering. So, he is the ingredients. He is everything. He is the ingredients. So it's very, very interesting that you offer a sacrifice and it's the ingredients. And he is the ingredients because everything that exists that we can see around us in this universe is the universal form of the body of the Lord. So there is nothing else. Anyway, there's nothing else. You want to offer sacrifice to the Lord, you got to take from the body of the Lord and offer it. So this is a very deep thought. So, is there any other points in this paragraph? So Brahma, after his perplexity of not, he saw darkness and nothing else. He couldn't see the Lord. There was only Brahma and the Lord, but he couldn't see the Lord. He saw darkness. So he felt perplexity. So the thing to do when you feel perplexity, he's the example, undergo austerity. So he felt it in his heart, so he did. He practiced austerity, and it became clear, and he understood. Then after that, he could see the Lord. So by austerity, somewhere, I didn't look this up, Krishna says, I am the penance of the ascetics. So somehow he is the austerity too. It's amazing, deep, deep thoughts. Try to understand how this is true. It's very deep. So these are the ingredients. All the ingredients are needed. So we have no expert. The priest and the animal sacrifice and the fire is forbidden. So we created the ingredients. We created everything. So he created from the Lord. So okay, that's the whole first paragraph. Now there's another paragraph in this purport. The impersonalists argue that there's no use in worshiping the Lord when everything is nothing but the Lord himself. The personalist, however, worships the Lord out of a great sense of gratitude, utilizing the ingredients born out of the bodily limbs of the Lord. The fruits and flowers are available from the body of the earth, and yet Mother Earth is worshipped by the sensible devotee with ingredients born from the earth. So I think this might be referring to, I don't know, I can think of like pagans and Wiccans, they offer, I think they worship Mother Earth or some kind of earth goddess, and they offer things from the earth. So I don't know exactly what he's referring to there, but that's what I think of. Similarly, Mother Ganges is worshipped by the water of the Ganges. It's an example we all know about. And yet the worshipper enjoys the result of such worship. Worship of the Lord is also performed by the ingredients born from the bodily limbs of the Lord. And yet the worshipper, who is himself a part of the Lord, achieves the result of devotional service to the Lord. While the impersonalist wrongly concludes that he is the Lord himself, the personalist, out of a great gratitude, worships the Lord in devotional service, knowing perfectly well that nothing is different from the Lord. The devotee therefore endeavors to apply everything in the service of the Lord because he knows that everything is the property of the Lord and that no one can claim anything as one's own. This perfect conception of oneness, meaning not perfect Mayavadi, complete oneness, but it means the perfect understanding, helps the worshiper in being engaged in his loving service. Okay, the Lord's loving service. Whereas the impersonalist, being falsely puffed up, remains a non-devotee forever without being recognized by the Lord. So, so this is comparing the personalist and the impersonalist. There's three times or two times. least twice in here, the word gratitude is used. So this is really interesting because it doesn't say, it says a sense of gratitude. Of great gratitude and a sense of gratitude. Now we talk about gratitude sometimes, a lot. We talk about gratitude, and in the Western culture, there's this little rhyming phrase, attitude of gratitude. So we're supposed to cultivate an attitude of gratitude, and like even parents try to cultivate that in their children. They make them write thank you letters for their presents and things like that. So they tell them to thank God for their meals, and so I kind of cultivate an attitude of gratitude. But I had a glimpse reading this great sense of gratitude, great gratitude. This is a natural, spontaneous kind of gratitude. He's talking about something different. By Prabhupada having put it in those words, I got a glimpse through Prabhupada's words of a different kind of gratitude. I don't know if there's a gradation, like from one kind to the other, or if it's as starkly different as you think yourself is the enjoyer or you think Krishna is the enjoyer. So I don't know if there's a gradation or a stark difference. But this gratitude he's talking about here, this is a natural gratitude, knowing that Krishna is the enjoyer, knowing that Krishna is the source of everything, including of yourself, and knowing that Krishna has offered all these things, made them available so that you could use them to connect with your dear friend Krishna, with whom we've been disconnected, from whom our consciousness has been disconnected. So this is a naturally arising gratitude. It's not one that you cultivate. Like the other kind of gratitude is sort of self-centered gratitude, like I'm the enjoyer, so I'm going to thank God because he gave me all these blessings to enjoy. And sometimes you see Western people saying, Lord, thank you for this nice family, this nice home, thank you for my income, thank you for the, this. And they assume they are the enjoyers, and they have in the subconscious mind this image of God painted by our dear friend Michelangelo, who painted God as a fierce old man with a lot of hair and beard and gray and muscles, and he's pretty fierce, and he's just wearing a real plain robe. That's it. He's not the enjoyer. He's the giver of enjoyment to his beautiful little children. He's not beautiful. He's not the enjoyer. He does not wealthy. He doesn't have. He's just. They have the idea. This God, subconsciously back in the mind, this God had nothing. He had nothing going for him. It's just nothing. So he created the world so he had some children to love. And this is kind of the background of the idea. So the children should be grateful. But this is a miserly kind of gratitude, and you have to tear yourself away from enjoyment to remember to be grateful. So you have to cultivate that. It's a sacrifice in itself. It is a sacrifice. It's a beginning kind of sacrifice. And you want to just play with your toys, and you have to write a thank you letter. You have to remember to think appreciative thoughts when you want to just play with your toys. So it's a sacrifice, but it's not like this. This great sense of gratitude, the word sense, it means a spontaneous, natural feeling that arises out of knowing everything is God, everything is Krishna, including myself. And he has given me this opportunity to connect with him by offering what's him back to him. And I had a glimpse, and I was trying to put it into words to figure out exactly how to say and then keep this vision of, it's like when somebody gives of themselves in order to have a loving relationship with you, the gratitude is more natural than if they give you something so you can enjoy. Does that make sense? It's a little different kind of gratitude here, and it rises naturally. This is what I felt. This is a glimpse of something that I had reading Prabhupada's words here. Somebody like Prabhupada has this great sense of gratitude. So that when the person worships the Lord, the person knows Krishna as a person who wants to worship, wants a relationship, and is grateful that there's this opportunity, this way to do it. So we're always saying how fortunate we are. Prabhupada came and he gave us this knowledge. So what? So we can have this way of relating to Krishna, the friend we've been looking for forever, that we can't find in the material world. So we feel some gratitude. We feel, we think about it, how fortunate we are. So, anyway, this gratitude thing is very, very important point, I think, in this purport. And of course, this is continuing the idea that you worship. Apparently, possibly the best kind of worship is to give back what's given to you out of that person. Like the Ganges gives the water. The Ganges is the water. The Ganges gives the water. We have water from the Ganges, if you live there, So you worship back with the water. You offer the water back. It is not a materialistic idea of gratitude because we think we have to pay with money or a different gift or something like that or a thank you letter or a different thing we have to give back. So this is kind of, but it's the deepest and most natural exchange and gratitude because we are nothing by ourselves. We have nothing to give except what Krishna is and has shared with us by being in the material world so that we have ingredients for sacrifice. So the sacrificing is in that we are not taking them as enjoyment, we're offering them back. So even the chanting of the holy names is a sacrifice. Well, I used to think, wait a minute, what kind of sacrifice is it? Well, we sacrifice 2-3 hours of our time. We sacrifice mental attention when things we want to look at, things or think about things or do things that are more fun or more interesting or get us somewhere or we can measure. And instead we take time out and we chant. So the chanting is just the holy names, and we give the holy names back to the person who is non-different from the holy names. It's sort of like the same thing. And then if we can go deep enough in our chanting, if we're not so distracted, if we go deep enough, we feel a natural sense of something like gratitude, that we're happy that we can connect like that. We're not happy thinking, oh, I'm getting the blessings out of this. And we're thinking, I'm connecting. So it's the idea that we're not the enjoyer, we're giving back what's being given to us. It's a loving exchange. So let's see, like and the whole spiritual world, the whole devotional service, the whole spiritual world, the dynamics of relationships going on, all of devotional service is based on gratitude, on this natural kind of gratitude, because the devotees. The pure devotees love Krishna. They want to give to him because they're so appreciative. He's so wonderful. He's giving them himself. He's giving them so many ways to worship him. And so they want to give to him. And Krishna, on the other side, is trying to figure out how can I repay them. And then when the gopis came, he couldn't repay them. He said, well, you're going to have to be satisfied with your service. I can't repay you. This is way more than I can. You love me more than I can love you because it's just overwhelming me. So, but it's gratitude. These loving relationships are based on gratitude. Is like practically the essence of the whole thing. Giving of self and gratitude. And sacrifice, you could say sacrifice is because I'm sacrificing my selfishness. And then there's this gratitude. Krishna gives of himself, I give of myself, of what Krishna has given me, give back to him to connect with him. So on. It's just the cycle of this special kind of gratitude. So, talk about that. Let's see, there's a few more points here. He ended up saying the impersonalist, being falsely puffed up, remains a non-devotee forever without being recognized by the Lord. Now, the Lord is in his heart, so you can't, not like the Lord doesn't even know who you are. Not that kind. But the kind of recognition that he appreciates and wants to give back, this mutual gratitude thing. It's, he's aloof, the Lord is aloof, he's in the heart, he's helping, but he's aloof. And so some examples here, 9:21. Let's see, 21 is about those who worship the demigods that go to the heavenly planets. When they have thus enjoyed vast heavenly sense pleasure and the results of their pious activities are exhausted, they return to this mortal planet again. Thus, those who seek sense enjoyment by adhering to the principles of the three Vedas achieve only repeated birth and death. But, 22, those who always worship me with exclusive devotion, meditating on my transcendental form, to them I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. This is gratitude. This is Krishna's gratitude back. So they're giving of themselves to him the best they can, so he gives back. He wants to help them out when they're weak, he will help fill in. And 23, those who are devotees of other gods and who worship them to it. 23, I didn't list that. That's not necessary to finish it. Who are worship them with faith actually worship only me, O son of Kunti, but they do so in their own way. So from there we could go, okay, one more, 929, and then talking about the impersonalists again. Krishna says, this is the role of Supersoul. This is what we expect of God, right? We expect to be impartial and take care of everybody. So, I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I'm equal to all. Okay, that's the God role, and that's the Supersoul in the heart of everyone. But whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend, is in me, and I am also a friend to him. That's gratitude. That's the spontaneous kind of gratitude that comes from loving giving of self to one another. So, there's no special recognition. He can be super soul and he's helping every soul, but he has no special recognition like that, not gratitude recognition. So now there's three kinds of impersonalists back in 914. It's kind of interesting scientifically. 14. No. Oh, okay. Starting with 914, because this was the basis for the next one. So, always chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me, these great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. So then when we go to text 15, which is the point about the impersonalists, he says, others, other than... You're busy morning. Okay. Others who engage in sacrifice by the cultivation of knowledge worship the Supreme Lord as the one without a second, as diverse in many and in the universal form. And the purport Prabhupada says, as one without a second. In one sense, Krishna is one without a second because there's no other God. But in this sense, it means, the Mayavadi, there's one without any kind of second. There's no other, it's all God. We're all God, everything, there's just one. So those are the Mayavadis. As diverse in many, those are the demigod worshippers. And there are demigod worshippers all over the world. There are pagans and Wiccans, and there's Ifa, and there's Shinto, and there's, the Hindu demigods. That's a common thing, the Roman gods and goddesses. Diverse in many. The God role is shared by many gods. And in the universal form. The universal form is, of course, the body of nature. So some people can't see anything about God except what they can see with their eyes. And it's the highest idea they can get of God. So these are three ways of being impersonal and worshiping the creation as God. Because in the first one, you worship yourself as God. And everything is one Ravan, but so I'm God. I don't have to worship God, and I'm God. So you kind of honor yourself as God. The second one, you worship, God is in many, and there are always demigods, so God is them, so you worship them, but they're created. And then nature, that's created. So it's all impersonalist because it's all worshiping other than God, but worshiping His creation in different ways. So these are impersonalists because they don't recognize the person Krishna. And there's a fourth kind of impersonalist that's not that bad. It's in chapter 12, and he's discussing the worshiper of Brahman. I was over that too. 3 and 4. Those who fully worship the unmanifest. He says fully worship. I think it means not just somebody being a Mayavadi, but somebody who's actually worshiping the Brahman. That which lies beyond the perception of the senses, the all-pervading, inconceivable, unchanging, fixed, and immovable, the impersonal conception of the absolute truth. Why is it so busy this morning? There's so few people here and they're talking to each other. Okay. Sorry, but this audience is really slim today. The impersonal conception, by controlling the various senses, okay, those who fully worship the Brahman, in other words, I'm interrupting. At last achieve me. So if you fully worship Brahman, then you can at last achieve Krishna. So, then for those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. to make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied. It doesn't say it's impossible. They're not Maya bodies. He doesn't describe them as Maya bodies. They're worshiping Brahman. So they just don't have the personal conception. They're worshiping something higher than themselves. They don't think, I'm God. But they're worshiping something higher than themselves with no personal conception. So these are impersonalists. And they don't experience this gratitude. They're not recognized by Krishna for this gratitude. There's no exchange of gratitude between, because they're not recognizing Krishna as a person, so Krishna is, he knows they're persons and he's helping them, but he's not giving them any personal kind of attention as far as relating to them. So I think that's everything I want to say, so I'll stop here. Is there discussion and questions and stuff? Yes?
Yeah, just want to, the point that you made about the gratitude was very, very nice. Krishna in Bhagavad Gita very clearly says that anything that we do, that is not an offering to him, it becomes a burden on us. It becomes a karma.
Becomes what?
It becomes a karma. So it comes back and bites us. So in that way, he's kind of indicating that it's an obligation for us to serve him. But the obligation, when it is done with love and affection, becomes gratitude. Krishna accepts it. Krishna looks at the nicer part of it.
And he's so appreciative. He has so much gratitude for even the littlest devotional service that we're finally willing and able to render, that there's no loss of the minutia. He never forgets it.
Yeah.
And it grows.
It's a very beautiful point.
And it's struck me, Prabhupada has this gratitude, and we're trying to grow it, and we're trying to understand it. But Prabhupada has it, so I could, by his words, I had a glimpse. I'm trying to think, what was that glimpse? It was so cool. And so I tried to figure it out. And thank you. Anything else?
Thank you for
Anything else?
The point that you made about devotional service, being how to perform, I've always understood Srila Prabhupada to teach us that it's moment to moment, that our devotional service is moment to moment. It's not, it's like from one thought to the next, and all the thoughts are always on Krishna. So that if we always think of Krishna moment to moment, then all the big times are all taken care of, all the bigger pieces of time. I mean, we have devotional, we have time to think of Krishna moment to moment, and then we have devotional service where we take prasad, where we worship the deities, where we chant the holy name. And then in between the holy name is also just thinking of Krishna. So it's a complete package, you know. And when I first joined, I thought that's what all the devotees did. That's how they showed me, moment to moment. And I watched how they performed service with Bard Raj in Los Angeles. He was moment to moment, he was involved in making the dolls. He may not have been chanting, actually japa. I think that he probably got his rounds done late at night, but mostly I saw him in service, just like performing service. And then, each devotee can teach us how Prabhupada he teaches through his disciples. He teaches directly and he teaches through his disciples. That's all I want to do.
Thank you. Yes, moment to moment. If we, he says, always think of me. So if we always think of Krishna, we'll also think of him at the moment of death. If we fail to always think of Krishna, but we engage in devotional service, it's never lost. He remembers it. But we're not quite ready to go back to Godhead because we're still thinking about other things. So this is our progress. Yeah.
As a real observer or conscious person, if you look back at mistakes or fall downs or whatever that happened in the past in our life, what was I thinking? And really, what were you thinking? And we can see where
Something other than
those mistakes. It was something other than Krishna. And just like the verse 3:6 in the Bhagavad Gita, the person who really has these deep lying desires, they don't make decisions for serving Krishna. They make decisions for serving themselves.
Yeah, even
it-
sometimes but Krishna never forgets. If we,
I have that milk in the house.
Yeah.
everybody's speaking so secret and quiet, but it's not secret, it's not quiet.
But Krishna never. We shouldn't forget. That's the problem. And also, I like the passage where it said that at one time the sages would do the sacrifice of the animal, but then instantly, at the end of the sacrifice, the animal would come back. And then Prabhupada says so clearly, if one cannot do this, they shouldn't do those fire sacrifice.
Yeah, we can do that anymore.
So that's a test. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Srimad Bhagavatam.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.